Hey, horror fans! Once again, it is me, the Horror Mizamani G, and in honor of Black History Month, and of course, my ongoing Women in Horror series, it is time to start Black Final Girls Part 2.
Y'all ready for this?
Hey, horror fans! Once again, it is me, the Horror Mizamani G. Now, when I started my Women in Horror series several years ago, I decided that since it was taking place in February during Black History Month, I decided to make a series of videos called Black Final Girls for Women in Horror. If you get that playlist, I'll leave a card up there. You can see the three black actresses that I talked about. Obviously, it was Jada Pinkett Smith, Sandy Lathan, and Naomi Harris from the movies Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knife, Alien vs. Predator, and 28 Days Later. Now, obviously, because of the success of African Americans in horror films, namely Jordan Peele, Ryan Coogler, and all the other success that we've seen not only from black horror films, but black actresses now have gotten their respect. Now have more black final girls. And so I decided to make this video once again for my Women in Horror series. And to celebrate Black History Month, it is time to talk about Black Final Girls Part 2. Now, back when I started my research regarding Black Final Girls, my first Women in Horror series, my first question obviously was, who was the first Black Final Girl? And it came up with Jada Pinkett Smith from Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight. No, she played a woman called Geraldine, I believe you pronounce the name. She was doing a work release program before the events that took place in that horror film, and she unfortunately became the last survivor of that particular film. Hence, she was the final girl in that particular horror film. So, in essence, she was at that particular time the first fact final girl. But when I did the search now, it would say that the first black final girl would be Marky Bell, who played the title character in the 1974 black exploitation film called Sugar Hill, not to be confused with the Sugar Hill film that starred Wesley Snipes. Now, in that film, she plays Diana Sugar Hill, a photographer whose boyfriend is killed by mobsters after he refuses to sell them his nightclub to them. She goes to a voodoo queen who enlists an army of zombies to get her revenge on the mobsters who would kill them. That's kind of what the film is about. Now, when looking at the concept of the final girl trope when it comes to horror films, Diana Hill really doesn't fall into this category. She isn't trying to fight against the zombies or trying to survive them. She is the reason for the creation of the zombies in the first place. Now, as I stated earlier in Tales of the Crypt Demon Knight, Geraldine is the last person alive against the Collector. So, in effect, she is the final girl in this particular film. I mean, that's the vast differences between Marky Bell's Diane Hill's character and Jada Pinkett Smith Geraldine character is because, like I said before, she was the one that went to the voodoo priest and created the zombies. Not the flesh eating zombies that we know of today, but the actual zombies that were created by voodoo priests, back in that religion. So, but in that particular film, she's the reason why the zombies. She wasn't trying to fight them or survive them. She was actually the reason why, because she wanted to get her revenge. Whereas Geraldine, well, she was trying to survive against the Collector. Now, I'm sure we can have plenty of debates on this issue regarding who is really the first black final girl, but we can't ignore Marky Bell's place among the many black actresses who have been the lead in horror films. I mean, particularly when especially looking at horror films from the 70s, which I grew up in the 70s, I seen most of all those films. We rarely saw a black actress as a lead in a horror film. So at that particular time, when you take a look at all those films, especially the black exploitation films, this was particularly the first time we might have actually seen a black actress as a lead in a horror film. So she does deserve her place among, I guess you could say, black final girls, even though she really isn't a final girl. But we still have to give her credit because, it was one of the first times. It's bad enough that we really didn't see that a lot of black actresses, black actors as a lead in horror films become more prevalent especially during the black rotation phase. But rarely did we see black actors as a lead, so that's the reason why Marky Bell is on this list. Now, while also doing some research on this topic, another name that comes up came up on here when it comes to black final girls is Lupita Nyong'o. I don't know if anyone else does this search, but when I did the search when it comes to horror films, she comes up here twice in the film, obviously Jordan Peele's second film, Us, where she plays two characters, Adeline and Red. And I'm sure most people have seen this film twist of who these characters are, but if you've seen the film, you know what I'm talking about. So, and not to go into a long winded conversation, in this case, Adelaide would not be considered a final girl as we know the truth about her character and what we know, and now when we know what a final girl is when it comes to horror films, so she really isn't considered a final girl in this case. However, she would be a final girl in the 2019 zombie horror film called Little Monsters. Well, she plays a kindergarten teacher named Ms. Audrey Carolyn, who, during a field trip with her class, gets caught up in a zombie outbreak. It's a nice film. I've seen it before. I've reviewed the film before. If I can find it, I'll leave a card up here so you can actually see that particular review I did. She did a good job in that particular role, and she does survive the zombie outbreak, and she is a final girl in that particular film. So she is considered a final girl, but for Little Monsters, not for us. However, just like with Marky Bell, because Lupita Nyong'o is a lead actress in Us, Little Monsters, and in A Quiet Place Day One, she does deserve her place as well as a Black Final Girl. Because you do have to understand, and I think the reason why, as I'll discuss later on, the reason why we're seeing this trend is because of the lack of leads that we see for Black actresses, especially in horror films. Very rarely at the district of time, especially during the 70s and the 80s. We rarely saw black actresses as a lead, hence we really don't have that many black final girls. So when researching this, when I see Marky Bell and Lupita Nyong'o and some of the roles that they have, I can see why they were there. If you really want to do that fact, then Bianca Lawson from the horror movie Bones would probably be considered the final girl on this list because of the role that she plays in that film. Now, I'm sure everyone will agree that Kiki Palmer is a black final girl with her performance in the 2022 science fiction horror film Nope, also directed by Jordan Peele. We all know what a great job she did playing Emerald M. Haywood from the Haywood family that trained horses for film productions. I mean, we loved and enjoyed the back and forth she had with her brother Otis Jr. OJ, played by Daniel Kalua, and that she was a great black final girl. That film was pretty good. Very different type of film from Jordan Peele, but Kiki Palmer's performance was the one that drove that film along with Daniel Kaluuya. I thought it was a fantastic film, very well directed. We all kind of know the secret when it comes to that particular film, which I will not reveal here. When it comes to Jupiter Jones, I mean, I think it's Jones Jupiter. I forget what the name of the alien that they called it was. Yeah, but she definitely is a final girl in this particular film. We'll talk more about her character too later. Now, the next one on my list is Georgina Campbell from another 2022 horror film, this one called Barbarian, directed by Zach Kriegler. Now, she plays Tess Marshall, a young woman who learns that the Airbnb house that she rented is double booked and occupied by a man named Keith. Now, after some awkward moments between Tess and Keith, they become comfortable with each other, but also learn that the house that they rented out has a terrifying secret to it. Now, if you've seen the film, you know what I'm talking about. I won't reveal what that secret is. But once again, another great performance by Georgina Campbell. Very fantastic. Really did enjoy Barbarian. Now, when looking at all the final black girls that I've talked about, I love the fact that all the women in this role, they're smart, they're intelligent, and they don't make dumb mistakes like we've seen before in all the horror films, especially when it comes to the final girl trope, but in horror films in general. I mean, when you look at Barbarian, for instance, and Tess, when the film first starts, she finds out what's happening. She see that she's very cautious and defensive with Keith in the beginning of the film. She does all the right things here. She makes him take out his driver's license, make sure that he looks just like he looks in the picture. She takes a picture of it. She tells people where she's at and who she's with so they know where she's at. And she also makes him sleep on the couch and keeps the bedroom door open. all the right things to do when you're in a situation like this, where unfortunately you're in a very dangerous neighborhood. There's no other rooms in the hotel. It's the only place you can say the guy obviously made a mistake when he double booked the room. So you make sure you take all the precautions, and that she does. And I really like the fact that they did that for this character. I mean, going all the way back to Alien versus Predator and Alexa Woods, she makes sure that the expedition that she's on follows her orders. And even after learning the truth about the expedition, though, with the aliens and the predators, she still tries her best to make sure everyone survives the ordeal that they're in. And she's very assertive. She makes sure everyone follows the orders. She makes sure everyone tries to stay alive. She's in charge. Obviously, I like the backboard they had with the Predator in that particular film. She is a great example of what a great final girl is, and particularly for a black final girl. Basically, what I'm saying is that all the black funnel girls I've talked about aren't the stereotypical and cliche characters that we've seen before in horror films when it comes to African American females. They're not the angry black woman or the best friend trope that we've seen before in horror films. They're brave, they're intelligent, and they're honest women who, despite the scary situation that they're in, they're trying their best to survive the situation that they're in. Whether it's trying to fight demons or aliens or crazy stuff in Barbarian or an alien or a supposedly alien in Us, or the situation Lupita Nyong'o finds herself in Us, or in Little Monsters, or even A Quiet Place Day One. They're smart, they're resourceful, they have their own problems, they have their own issues, but never do we take them for granted. They are very intelligent, and I like what the actresses, how they perform the roles, and I like what the people who made the films and how they created the characters. They've done a fantastic job throughout the years. And I think mainly the change of what we've seen when it comes to the black final girls or black actresses in horror films in general, it's due to success that we've seen over the years when it comes to African Americans and the roles that they have been given in horror films. From Jordan Peele, Ryan Coogler, and Nina DaCosta. Movie studios are now finally getting the African Americans the respect that they deserve in the horror genre, and that we can finally say we don't have to die first now. I believe with the success of Sinners, with 16 Academy Award nominations, we're going to see more black final girls in horror films that we've seen in general, as Hollywood and the movie studios are now trusting the fact that, hey, look, we could actually have a black actress is in the lead of a horror film, and it'll actually be successful, and it'll also make them money. So there you have it, guys. That is my video for Black Funnel Girls 2. I hope you guys did enjoy it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, like, it really helps out with that YouTube algorithm. Also, if you're new here, please hit that subscriber button. Ring that notification bell. That way, you'll be notified anytime when I put a new video such as this one. Once again, my name is Lamont Smith, better known as the Horror Miser Money G, and always remember, horror rules. I see you in my next video. Guys, stay safe out there.